because the thing is, right, is that as everything's continuing to unfold, more protests,
Hmm.
more things happening. Like I just think that something has to be very different. Like
Definitely.
we can't keep doing what we've been doing. And honestly, as Black people, like one of the things that concerns me is that we will be so enraged and be so like beside ourselves, right? And we'll feel alone, like this is our burden to carry. But I feel like it's
It's
all of
not.
ours.
It's everybody's burden.
It's
You know,
all of
because until equality is met, unfair treatment affects everybody. It affects the poor white person, it affects the rich white person, it affects everybody. It's not just a Black person problem.
ours.
It affects the Black people
Right, right,
predominantly, but this is a cultural problem. This is an American problem. I find that, and it angers me that when people protest racism, racism is so ingratiated into this country that when we protest racism, we're almost like we're seen as protesting America,
right.
like the knee and the knee with Colin Kaepernick. That wasn't un-American. That was about as American as apple pie. But instead of everybody seeing the peaceful protest that he was talking about, police brutality. Let's give it a name. I'm talking about police brutality. I can't stand for an anthem for a country that allows police brutality to go on and on and on. That was peaceful.
Right,
You can't get any more peaceful than that.
right,
And 2 years later, we're talking about how un-American it was.
right.
Not how police brutality still exists. That's the problem. When people protest peacefully, it's still denounced. Black Lives Matter came out,
Right,
and what did the cops do? Oh, Blue Lives Matter, and I'm not saying they don't, because I'm a blue life,
right,
but I chose this career. You didn't choose your skin. That's a huge difference.
right,
Okay, I chose my career, and until Black Lives Matter also,
right.
all lives matter are going to happen, because all lives are all lives, and Black lives need to matter also.
But
And
the
that's what people don't get.
I know. And the thing you mentioned about Colin Kaepernick, I saw a video last night. I think it was Trevor Noah, and he was like, "You don't get to tell people how to protest," and it doesn't feel like you're ever, and you being like society, kind of the American machine, wasn't satisfied with Colin Kaepernick, and that was, like you said, very peaceful. That was
Be more peaceful.
extremely peaceful. He wasn't burning anything. He was kneeling, and yet look at the repercussions to him. Look at his career, all the things that were lost because people were so disturbed by that
Mhm.
show of like, I'm not having it. And
But you know why?
go
Because they
ahead.
don't they don't think that it exists. I have that argument, especially with other law enforcement
Okay.
people, all the time. They don't believe that systemic racism is a thing.
Okay.
Okay.
And this is part of my concern is that there's a system at play, like the law enforcement and like police departments and the different arms and individuals within that still don't believe that racism is a real thing.
It gets lost in translation somehow. It's what a lot of people who don't see, what I find, who don't see the systemic racism, isn't that they're racist.
Okay.
I find that's not true at all. I find that they're just ignorant, that they don't see it.
Okay.
It hasn't been in their life. A guy told me, and he believes that Blacks smoke weed more than whites. And the reason why he sees that is because he works at the metal detectors in the courtrooms. And he sees more Black people entering the courtroom than white people entering the courtroom for the same charge.
Okay.
Now, what he sees is correct. But what he doesn't get, what he doesn't get is that more people are being arrested for that criminal behavior if you're Black than if you're white.
Right.
If you're white, you get that pass.
Right.
And if you're Black, you're more likely to not get that pass. And that's what he doesn't get.
Right.
So what he sees is what he's using to justify his ideology. And I get that because he's not experienced to the other side. He hasn't been in that car with a black guy and seen that treatment when I've been pulled over, and because I look white, even though I'm Puerto Rican,
Right.
I didn't get that treatment from that officer or an officer alike.
Right.
So that's the disconnect.
Yeah, it's
And
so.
I think it's just cultural though.
Because even weed, right? Weed is huge because even like, okay, I'm Jamaican. My mother would have the idea that more black people smoke weed than white people, just as a Jamaican woman, because she's been exposed, she's understanding things about our culture that she thinks is kind of unique to our culture. And I'm telling you, as I have grown up and lived a little bit, I've learned that white people smoke a lot of weed.
You ain't lying.
Weed.
I've been under this corona. I've been under this coronavirus, and I've been playing online video games because I'm still a kid. So I'm playing these online video games, and I'm amazed at how everybody's like, "All right, I gotta go smoke a bowl," or you'll be playing and you hear,
right.
And I'm saying to myself, well, they don't know I'm in law enforcement, so this is interesting. Even though my tag name is New York State Bailiff, but hey, they don't know I'm in law enforcement.
Right.
And it's almost everyone. It's the white guys, it's the black guys, it's the guys who sound black, who when they show you a picture like, shit, you're white. It's like it's all of the it's not. But in New York, you're 85% more likely to get arrested for it.
Right.
That's the problem.
And the thing is, in California, it's legal now, right? So this is interesting because you see all these white entrepreneurs starting cannabis companies,
making money,
making that money while there's still black people in jail, black and brown people, indigenous people still in jail. We're trying to like, release and do the right thing in some ways. But
I got a person offended by when I said that once. I said, it's funny that all these black families have been torn apart because they were selling weed, and now all these white businessmen are making mad loot over it. And said, "Oh, you can't because that was a criminal." I was like, "It's just the point I'm making. It's not to get you offended. It's just, but it's the truth. And sometimes the truth angers people, man. It really does, especially when you feel like you're being oppressed. And the funny thing is, white people now think that they are being oppressed. And that's scary to me.
Right. I'm trying
That's scary to me.
Too, because, the thing that I think a lot of black people have been up against is this idea of building and working hard and the bootstrap thing from day one. And, we've seen the history of this country. You have families who have benefited early out from like prohibition, like when alcohol was illegal. There are families white families, wealthy families that made their money off of that before it was legal. So before it became legal, and then they like burst through when it was legal. It's the same kind of thing I'm seeing happening with cannabis, is that, young black men who were entrepreneurs, a young black and brown, so Puerto Rican, the range. Entrepreneurs, they were smart. They really wanted to like build a life for themselves. So they did something outside of what was acceptable and punished for it.
It broke a lot of homes, and I'm starting to notice a lot of states are going back and releasing people, and that's a good start.